Yeah, let's get a little bit over here so I can Hey, so we're back. I can't believe we haven't like talked about this dude before, but I had all these books before. This is God, the light. This light. I gotta change the light. But can you see that? Let's see. But some of these books that have like white covers and records. But Raymond Roussel. I would say this is if this was influential, it was like more in the 80s and stuff because I was kind of looking through this because let's see, do introduction. So like when Raymond Roussel, I have two different books. This one is Impressions of Africa, probably his best novel. I mean, there's also Locus Solus. Raymond Roussel was like this weird writer. I kind of, and then there's this book, How I Wrote Certain of My Books, and it's edited by Trevor Winfield, introduction by John Ashbery. But everybody shows up in this book, like you know, one Trevor Winfield translates one, John Ashbery, Ham Matthews, Kenneth Koch, and Winfield. I didn't know Trevor Wingfield was a translator too, but it's kind of like maybe they all kind of got together like somewhere and translated like this together. But let me read the a bit of the introduction. This is like this didn't exist. This is like a new translation by Mark Polizzotti, Impressions of Africa. This is not the one I read originally, and known to some as the Houdini of French literature, Raymond Roussel might be it's Peter Pan, the consummate verbal prestigator. André Breton dubbed him the greatest memorizer of modern times, carried in his bag of tricks enough material for at least 10 times his actual output and devised the sort of technological novelties that invite comparisons both to his idol Jules Verne and with another of the 20th century underrated oddball, Tesla. In terms of compositional mechanics, his celebrated method, though its full implications remain largely unexplored, has resurfaced in the writings of the Surrealists, the new novelist, the Oulipo, the New York School. But in many ways, Roussel was also the boy who never grew up. In page after page, the reader of his novels finds himself seated before a seamlessly endless spectacle staged, it would appear, for Roussel's benefit alone. And as with many children of privilege, Roussel was in spades, which any discomfort or damage suffered by the performer takes a distant backseat to the demanding taut's enjoyment. So yeah, he was a sort of kind of like this rich guy, out of touch rich guy that just kind of wrote these books and published them himself. Um, just nothing really sold. He was kind of contemporaries with Proust, but just I mean, he kind of come. He's often compared to Jules Verne, but he just had his own kind of systems of writing books, which he talks about in How I Wrote Certain of My Books. And yeah, I mean, since I was a fan of not only the Surrealists, the Oulipo, the new novelists, like everybody in French literature, look, even Duchamp has a connection to, because like I don't know, let's see, Roussel. I mean, only published a couple books. Roussel, and then he self-published. It just like it was all like turkeys. He published a novel in verse, the Doublure. Um, so Impressions of Africa came out in 1910. So that's kind of like the same time as like James Joyce's Portrait of an Artist, and then Locus Solus came out 4 years later. He tried to do some plays, and then to be confused, he wrote New Impressions of Africa, which was like a poem. So, how I wrote certain of my books near when he died in 1933. Maybe they came out after he died, but his poems were weird. They would have like, they were like complicated and like David Foster Wallace. They'd be like bracketed off, like there would be he would have a thought within a thought, like kind of like with what are those? What is this thing called? This um, parentheses or whatever, or not parentheses, but I don't even know what those things are called. And yeah, and then also Foucault wrote a book about him, and I was kind of a big Foucault, Death in the Labyrinth. So there was all these ways kind of pointing back to, I get, Baudelaire and Huysmans of Against Nature, and you know, um, the poet Jules Laforgue, who's probably even more obscure. But Roussel was one of those guys that we all kind of pointed to as like, just who is this weirdo? So let's get to how I wrote certain of my books, because let's see. Roussel's name doesn't mean very much yet in America. It means almost as little in France, where he's remembered as an amiable eccentric, the author of naive plays which intrigue the surrealists, and yet, in spite of the fact that the public has always regarded him as curiosity, some of France's leading modern writers and artists, from Gide to Cocteau to Duchamp to Giacometti, from the Surrealists to the school of nouveau roman, have considered him a genius. So, yeah. So, I was looking at this book. What's this? Okay, so that's Roussel talking about. So he would, in how I wrote certain of my books, he wrote sort of how he kind of had all these structures. So he would have one sentence, and then he would either like change a word or one of the words, and like the whole purpose of the novel was to get to the first sentence and to the second sentence and stuff. So, that, I'm like coming through like the Oulipo too, and so my book, Alexander Plots, is basically sort of like that. So in Alexander Plots, I would there was the story is 4 parts. So the first sentence, there's the first sentence and the last sentence, and then the second part begins with the second sentence. Or no, the first sentence is also the first sentence of the first thing. So it goes from A to B, and then A to C, and then how did I do that? But I repeated all the first sentences and all the last sentences, I think. That's in a Rousselian way. So what else have we got here? So that's Wingfield. So his books, here's just a little bit of impressions of Africa in this book too. About 4:00 the afternoon of June 25th, everything seemed ready for the coronation of Tulu, Emperor of Palmake, and the King of Drukaf. So he makes up. The Africa, like his Africa, is very strange. He's also one of those guys that never been to Africa. And he wrote a book. Wrote 2 books, and Locus Solus is, it's kind of like cliched now, like where everybody goes to like some castle of some weirdo, and just like they there's a bunch of like inventions, and it's like a guy that lives there in this country estate, and there's like it's a lot. I guess I do have this screenplay that I wrote that's kind of influenced by this, because I like movies that are kind of modular, where it kind of starts and then you kind of follow one person and they kind of have you can film different sequences and they can go in any order really, but there's sort of a structure, but it's sort of it's sort of like a scenic taking the scenic route and stuff, and then you come back to the beginning, or that detour is sort of what the whole story is about. So I like that whole idea. But so what do we got here? Okay, so I also wanted to point out it's funny that Matthews. So in New Impressions of Africa, translated by Kenneth Koch, Canto 3 is called The Column Which Licked Until the Tongue Bleeds Cures Jaundice. And then you look at the first line, what a heroic treatment this, consuming with one's tongue, which is not to be sheathed until some blood from it is wrung. After 1,000 other idiots, the pillar sides, but unto which bend the knees or chase the rapid strides under the spell of hope that is palpable or chimerical. Hope. That's where he goes into one of those like kind of bracketed. He brackets the thought. Hope, king of lovers, every rich uncle in America. Another bracket, that land still young. So it's like a footnote of a footnote. Like he's on going. I mean, this guy was doing this, almost 100 years before David Foster Wallace. And yeah, he did. He also did a book, the drawings for this book, 59 drawings for New Impressions Africa. But the guy, like the drawings, like had nothing to do with the actual book. The guy, like the artist or whatever, he just kind of. I guess they have a lot of drawings in here. It doesn't really have much to do with the poem itself. But Rousseau, he was like he wrote like when he wrote maybe two novels and a few poems, and then he he did an Impressions of Africa. He did a play version that Duchamp saw, and yeah. Let me get to like yeah, the New Impressions of Africa. Where would I have? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, page 51. Okay. So, yeah. So, my poem is called "Are the Soldiers Licked" by that old friend of man, because I have seen the dried blood. So, very similar title. I wasn't, because I just kind of lifted it and kind of forgot about the poem because I haven't really read that since maybe 86 or something. So, and then how it starts, I am the frozen sensuality with the sublime instruments of industry behind me. I am not a fisher king contemplating sea animals, but an exile trying to keep warm by dancing on sidewalks and trying to sing the new song of the next century. We neglect the dream of Spain. So, yeah, I kind of changed it a little bit because I I kind of like stole the kind of like the conceit of the original, and of course it was in French, so I saw the French and the translation and stuff, and there was a different translation probably than this Kenneth Koch one. And then I took it and kind of mangled it through like maybe kind of a being informed by Laforgue, because there was a time when I was kind of like under the spell of Jules Laforgue, so that was always an influence and stuff. So So that's in my new book, and so yeah, when I wrote it, and it just went on too long. I'm glad I kind of shorted it down. It went on for like 3 pages. This original one, and I performed it with Andy Journay from Mnemonic Devices at Safari Sounds back in a while ago. I'm probably 86, and yeah. So yeah, Roussel is definitely like when I was like more into kind of making it up and the imagination and just kind of writing stuff and creating Oulipian structures, is that a word? Structures or limits, uh, so when I went back to that poem, I go, oh, this is good, but I have to, you know, it was supposed to be about two guys going to Iceland. So I feel like there's not enough of that in there. So let's kind of get that back into there, and because they were kind of like they were trying to evade something, or just they were trying to just leave their previous life somehow, or which was kind of a failure and stuff. So okay, so I guess that's it on Raymond Roussel. I'm surprised I haven't got to him before because there's so many connections. John Ashbery set up a Raymond Roussel society in like 10 years ago. There's references of Ian Watson wrote a science fiction novel called The Embedding that reference new impressions of Africa. Uh, Roussel is a character in the novel The Vorth by B. Catling. Is that true? French philosopher Gilles Deleuze uses Roussel's work as one of the many examples of repetition in his 1968 work Difference and Repetition. A comprehensive exhibition of Roussel's achievements entitled Locus Solus was exhibited within was at Porto like March 24th, 2012. Special attention was granted to his personal connections with Man Ray, Dali, and Duchamp, who observed that Roussel pointed, it was he who pointed the way. Indeed, Duchamp claims in his writing The Trouble with Great Art that it was fundamentally Roussel who was responsible for my large glass, the bride's strip bare by his bachelor's even. Yeah. So yeah, the Oulipo was familiar with him. Surrealists, when Surrealists like created like a society of influences, like definitely Roussel was in there. I don't think they had met him. I think he had died by that time. He was admired by the Surrealists. Uh, Michel Leary, Andre Breton, Duchamp. The Oulipo was into him. Alain Robbe-Gray, and the New York School of Poets. So that's where I get it. I mean, because I mean, Ashbery and Matthews, they called their magazine Locus Solus. So it's always been like, I guess it's kind of like arty farty kind of art school kind of reference Roussel, because I knew some girl that did that would do like window displays, and she did a reference to um, I think that was Impressions of Africa, where the hairless cats are going down and with the getting the pills and stuff. So yeah, back. I've been going for a long time from Roussel. I'm going to go back to the. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, it's still in the first sentence. Okay, so Raducanu is still in there. I can't believe it. Okay, so we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll do some more authors today. We'll see what Yeah, I didn't. I just got these books again. I had this book when I was in New York, like 25 years ago. But and this other Roussel is a new one. Is a new one published by What's Left of Dalkey Archive, and yeah, I mean, there's other people. Is there a question or anything? Okay, gotta get going here and listen to Talking Heads. Okay, bye.